Welcome back, everybody, to another week of Sunday School here at the Lighthouse Church of the Nazarene in Moravia, Iowa, where we're going through the book of Job. This week, we're in Job chapter 18. Now, today in Job chapter 18, we're going to hear the second time from a man named Bildad the Shuhite. This is Bildad's second speech. He's going to give us one more in chapter 25, but chapter 25 is just a short 6 verses. So this is the second time we'll hear from Bildad. We do hear from Bildad 3 different times. Now, we mentioned this before, clear back when we did chapter 8, when we talked the first time about Bildad. But Bildad the Shuhite. What is a Shuhite? A Shuhite would have been a descendant of Shua. Shua was a son of Abraham and Keturah was Abraham's second wife after Sarah died. So that's what a Shuhite is. And they would have settled probably in the Arabian Peninsula area where the Midianites would have been. So that's Bildad the Shuhite. Where did we finish off last week? Last week in chapter 17, Job had just finished answering Eliphaz, and it was Eliphaz's second speech. So Job answered Eliphaz, and now Bildad, he wants to speak his mind. So like I said, we're in Job chapter 18. We're going to hear from Bildad the Shuhite. Let's get out our Bibles, and let's follow along. Job chapter 18, verse 1. Then Bildad the Shuhite answered and said, verse 2, how long till you put an end to words? Gain understanding, and afterwards we will speak. So Bildad actually begins his second speech the exact same way he began his first speech. In his first speech, he said, how are you're coming at us with words without wisdom? Job, you're windy. This time he says, how long till you quit this? Job, you're getting windy again. And he says this, he says, gain understanding, and afterwards we will speak. So what Bildad's telling Job is, Job, smarten up and then we can talk. Have you ever heard somebody say, like, I'm done having this conversation. We're not doing this conversation anymore. Well, that's what Bildad did. But then what? Guess what? He goes ahead and continues talking, does he not? And he doesn't even wait for Job to respond. Bildad would be one of those people who says, you know what? I just couldn't keep it in anymore. I just couldn't bite my tongue any longer. I had to say something. Proverbs 15:1 tells us this. It says, a soft answer turns away wrath, but harsh words stir up anger. Usually, if we really have to think about whether we should say something or not, usually it's good to just keep it to ourselves. But I also want to share this verse with us, and it's Proverbs 27:6, which says, faithful are the words of a friend, but the kisses of an enemy are deceitful. Think about that. Faithful are the words of a friend, but the kisses of an enemy are deceitful. A true friend will tell you something that you really don't want to hear, but it's for your own good. That's why it says, faithful are the wounds of a friend. A true friend will tell you something that you really don't want to hear. But most of the time, they'll only say it once. They'll say, hey, I'm only going to bring this up once, and it's only because I care about you, and then I'll leave it alone. It's in your hands. But remember, faithful are the wounds of a friend, but the kisses of an enemy are deceitful. Now, is Bildad a true friend? Or is he just wanting to speak his own mind here and appear smart? We don't know the answer to that too well, do we? Verse 3, this is Bildad talking. Why are we counted as beasts and regarded as stupid in your sight? This is one of the few places that we're going to find the word stupid in the Bible. I think there's a couple other verses in Proverbs probably. Bildad's saying, you're treating us as dumb cattle instead of the geniuses that we really are, and you should be showing us all sorts of respect. He seems upset that he seems upset about Job taking what he has said. He's been regarding it lightly, has he not? We can tell that he has a very high opinion of himself. People who have very high opinions of themselves, they feel very hurt when other people do not acknowledge it. And they will not humiliate themselves, but they do like to humiliate others. And that's what we find Bildad doing here. Let's keep going here. Verse 4. You who tear yourself in anger. He's saying, Job, you're acting like a madman. You who tear yourself in anger. Shall the earth be forsaken for you, or shall the rock be removed from its place? He's saying, Job, you think God's going to rearrange the whole world just for you? Do you not? Let's keep going here. Verse 5. The light of the wicked indeed goes out, and the flame of his fire does not shine. Now, Bildad wants to remind Job that every wicked man gets paid in full. The light of the wicked indeed goes out, and the flame of the fire does not shine. Now remember, this is Bildad. This is the three friends theology. Bad stuff happens to bad people. Good stuff happens to good people. But there is a truth here. Nobody gets away with anything. Numbers 32:23 says, "Be sure your sin will find you out." Psalm 73, it's a psalm of Asaph, and he says, "I was envious of the boastful. Why do the wicked prosper? Until I saw their end." The end of the wicked man is not good. Now, Bildad is about to use fear as a tactic to get Job to repent. And he's going to talk about all the things that happened to the wicked man here. So here's a question for us. Is fear of death and fear of judgment and eternal punishment in hell a good motive for trusting in Jesus and being saved? Well, here's my answer. Absolutely. Now, Jesus preached a gracious message of love, but he also preached a pretty stern message of judgment, did he not? How many times did Jesus talk about hell? In the parable of the sheep and the goats, when he set the sheep at the right hand and the goats on the left, he said, "Come, you blessed, into my eternal kingdom. But cursed are you, and you will go out into everlasting fire." That's what he said to the goats. What else did he say? Many times he said, these will be thrown into the fiery furnace where there will be wailing and gnashing of teeth. In the book of Revelations, it says, "Everyone whose name is not written in the Lamb's book of life will be thrown into the fire, into the lake of fire, where they will be tormented day and night forever and ever." That's what our Bible says. We do need to preach a message of love, but there also is the harsh warnings for people that reject God and reject his free gift of salvation through Jesus Christ. So, is fear a good motive? Absolutely. Jesus said, "Do not fear those who kill the body, but cannot kill the soul, but rather fear him who is able to destroy both soul and body in hell." I'll leave you with this one here. D.L. Moody, great preacher. He said that whenever somebody preaches on the judgment of hell, that it must be done from a tender and loving heart. Is Bildad coming from that tender and loving heart? I really don't feel like he is. All right. Let's go back to verse 5 right here real quick, where it says, "The light of the wicked indeed goes out, and the flame of his fire does not shine." Life is like the flame of a candle. Life is very delicate. It doesn't take a very strong wind to blow it out. Correct? Proverbs 20:27 says, "The spirit of man is the candle of the Lord." The spirit of man is the candle of the Lord. And guess what? God can blow out that candle whenever he pleases. It's in 1 Samuel chapter 20. David tells Jonathan, "There is but a step between me and death." And that's the way we all are. We're always just have one step between us and death. This life is fragile and this life is short. It's a vapor in the wind. Here today and gone tomorrow. And we know that. So let's keep going here. Let's see. Where are we at here? Verse 6. "The light is dark in his tent, and his lamp beside him is put out." Verse 7. "The steps of his strength are shortened, and his own counsel casts him down." Like I said earlier, Bildad is going right back to his principle of sowing and reaping, the doom of the wicked. And it's very obvious that he's referring to Job in all of this stuff right here. Verse 7. "The steps of his strength are shortened, and his counsel casts him down. For he is cast into a net by his own feet, and he walks into a snare." Verse 9. "The net takes him by the heel, and a snare lays hold of him. A noose is hidden from him on the ground, and a trap for him in the road." Verse 11. "Terrors frighten him on every side and drive him to his feet. His strength is starved, and destruction is ready at his side." Verse 13. "It devours patches of skin. The firstborn of death devours his limbs." Notice there, Bildad says, the wicked man, it devours patches of his skin. What was one of Job's crisis? Skin disease. Remember, Job was covered in boils. It is so obvious that Bildad is saying all these things referring to Job. Verse 14, "He is uprooted from the shelter of his tent, and they parade him before the king of terrors." Verse 15, "They dwell in his tent who are none of his. Brimstone is scattered on his dwellings." I wonder if this isn't a reference to Sodom and Gomorrah. I just don't know about that. Verse 16, "His roots are dried out below, and his branch withers above. The memory of him perishes from the earth, and he has no name among the renowned." Let's look at verse 17 real quick again, in which Bildad says, "The memory of him perishes from the earth, and he has no name among the renowned." Now let's think about this. It's interesting. Bildad says, "Job, the memory of you, it's going to perish." But here we are, 4,000 years after the life of Job, and Job is probably one of the most well-known people in world history. About anybody, if you ask them who Job is, they'll be able to tell you who he was. So all this time later, we are still talking about Job. But what does Bildad say? Oh, the memory of you will perish. You'll have no name among the renowned. But there is something that we should take away from this. You and I, all of us, one day, we will all be forgotten, even in our own families. Here's an interesting thought exercise. We all each have two parents, and then it doubles from there. We have 4 grandparents, 8 great grandparents, 16 great great grandparents. Can anybody name all 8 of their great grandparents? I'm going to guess it's a very, very, very select few. So that shows that each of us, just in a couple generations, we're going to be forgotten about in our own family. This is Ecclesiastes 2:16. There's no more remembrance of the wise than the fool forever, since all that now is will be forgotten in the days to come. And since all will be forgotten in the days to come, we can remember this saying, when this life comes to pass, only the things done for the Lord will last. That eternal stuff is the only thing that matters. Now, let's keep reading here. Verse 18, he is driven from light into darkness and chased out of the world. He has neither son nor posterity among his people. Now, this would be harsh. What just happened to all 7 of Job's sons and his 3 daughters? They were all killed. And what is Bildad telling him? He has neither son nor posterity among his people, nor any remainings in his dwellings. There is zero compassion and sympathy in this man right here. Verse 20, those in the west are astonished at his day, and those in the east are frightened. Surely such are the dwellings of the wicked, and this is the place of him who does not know God. What Bildad pretty much told Job is all the bad things that are happening to you happen to those people who don't know the Lord. How harsh is that? Now, Bildad is applying all these to Job, but we have to remember this when we're reading the book of Job. When we read the book of Job, we can't always build theologies on what Job's friends are saying, because God himself said, and it's in Job 42:7, he says, my wrath is aroused against you and your friends because you did not speak what is right. God himself said about these 3 friends, not everything you said was right. So we can't cherry pick verses out of the book of Job and say, hey, right here, this is the truth. We always have to pay attention to who's talking and why. So we're done with Job chapter 18. Next week, we get to hear from Job again in chapter 19. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned something. And I'll see you the same time, same place next week. Bye.